it even more. Of course, that can be talked about later. So that's just a little bit about the timeline and what I do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diseye Ajeh. I am currently a technical training analyst at an oil and gas company here in Houston. I was an international student I graduated in 2018 with my master's degree, and so I'm really happy to be back here to share my experiences and share anything that can possibly help anyone. And I'm really open to questions at the end. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Joe Hoggatt. I'm a business immigration attorney. I focus on employment-based, investment-based immigration, and I haven't had a haircut since February.
All right, thank you all for introducing yourselves. And at this time, if you want to talk a little bit more, panelists, about some of the ways that you support students. I know Stefan started to mention this as well for international students in Scholar Services. So if you would like to just share a little bit more about your experiences and maybe some of the concerns you're seeing from international students, and some initial kind of advice that you might have as well for international students that are here today.
Okay, so I'm gonna get started and I'm gonna share my screen. And I'm going to share a little bit about UCS and how we can help you as international students. So at the University Career Services, we are the main full service career center supporting all students and alumni with either career development, preparation, planning resources, resume writing, cover letters, and anything related to your professional development as you are a student at the University of Houston. Oftentimes, international students do not realize that they can use the services we offer. They think that it's just for specific colleges. So yes, so there are other colleges that have a standalone career center, like engineering, they have a career center. The law school has a career center, social work, technology, and HRM. However, UCS is the full service and we serve all students, international student, non-international students. So you can receive services from our office and also for your department if your department has a standalone career center. So for the fall, we will be going virtual, and this is going to go on until further notice. Once anything changes, we will let you know. So we do have a virtual chats, which is a 15-minute drop-in hour. So what that means is that for 15 minutes on between Monday and Thursday, from 9 to 12 or 1 to 4, you can actually have a chat with a career counselor. So you can, if you look on the right screen, you can see the button where you can go to our website and you'll be able to click on that. And during these times, there will be a career counselor that you can actually chat with. So this is the time that if you have a quick question about a resume review, a cover letter, or maybe a job lead that you intend to follow, or maybe a networking question or whatever that is. But just keep in mind that this will be for 15 minutes. Now, if you need a much longer time, you can schedule a 30 minutes career counseling appointment. And this is done by Cougar Pathway. So you can schedule this through Cougar Pathway, where you will have the time to select any career counselor that is available. And that was about 30 minutes. So there's a much longer time span that they can help you with any questions or any career related issues that you may have. All our workshops and events are going to be virtual this fall and until further notice, but you will still be required to RSVP in Cougar Pathway. That way you can get a link to the event, if it's either through Zoom or through Teams, just like we did with this event. You RSVP'd and then you received an email with a link to join the Zoom meeting. So everything is going to be virtual, and you will still be required to RSVP. So Cougar Pathway is something that you need to be familiar with if you're a returning student or even if you're a new student. Cougar Pathway, you can log into Cougar Pathway through your Access UH. Like I said before, through Cougar Pathway, you can schedule a career counseling appointment. You can search for on-campus jobs, internships, and full-time jobs. So if you're looking to work on campus, or if you're looking for internships, or if you're looking for full-time employment, you can search through Cougar Pathway. The good thing about Cougar Pathway is that you can also upload your resume or your cover letter, and then we will virtually review it and give you feedback. So what happens is if you upload your resume, one of our career counselors will review it. And then if there's any feedback that we have to make the resume better or to make you more, or your cover letter and your resume to make it more better, to make you more competitive with the employer, then we will reach out to you and we will give you the feedback. And then in turn, if you see an internship or full-time position that you would like to apply for, or on-campus position, you would already have a resume approved in our system, and then you can just apply for the position. Through Cougar Pathway, you can also schedule our on-campus interviews whenever we have them, and we do have them. So if you every now and then just go into Cougar Pathway and look at our events tab, you'll be able to see all the events we have. This is where you would see our on-campus interviewing and all the workshops and event that we have for the semester. And then you can RSVP through that, and you can schedule an on-campus interview. Again, like I said before, you have to RSVP and sign up for workshops through Cougar Pathway. We also have our employer meet and greets. This is where we have specific employers that will meet with our students just to network with them, share a little bit about their industry, their positions, the skills required for the industry, the school skills required for that job. If they have job openings, they will share that. It's a great networking opportunity. This is where you have the opportunity to network with employers. If you're interested in the industry or the specific employer, you will also have the opportunity to ask them questions and then be able to network with them and keep them in your network database. A couple of things as an international student that you need to be thinking of as you go through your studies here, through your academics and your professional developments at the university. What are your future career aspirations? That's something that you really need to look into, and that's something that you really need to be intentional about and pay attention to that. What do you see yourself doing after graduation? What do you want? What type of industry are you interested in? What type of skills do you need? What type of job are you looking for? Are you looking for maybe after your bachelor's degree to go in for a master's program, or after your master's program, are you looking at to further on with a PhD? How do you want to talk about your American education and experience? Because we're hoping that throughout your stay at the university, you will have either you work on campus or even through an internship, you would have some work experience in addition to your American education. It's very important for you to be able to talk about that and share what the relevancy is to the experience you have and the American education you have, in addition to whatever experience or education you might have from your home country, to be able to put all of that together and market yourself to the employer. Then the other thing is you have to figure out what else do you need to learn as you set your goals. What do you need to learn? How do you intend to learn this? Is this soft skills that you need to learn? Is it technical skills that you need to learn? Is it even just learning about the American culture and the work ethics? Is it just learning about how to job search in the American system? What type of experience or skills do you want based on the industry that you're interested in or based on what your major is? What are some of the things that you can do as you set your goals, as you get the experience, as you develop more skills to get you closer to your future career goals? And then lastly, what are your specific needs? What do you need? Do you need to develop soft skills? Do you need to learn more about the culture? Do you need to learn more about the American work ethic? Do you need to learn networking skills? If that's something that you're not comfortable with, that's something that you need to learn how to become comfortable with that. Public speaking and a lot of other things. And one of the ways you can do that is to start off by volunteering. When you volunteer, it's in a non-threatening environment where you're able to learn some of the skills that you may need depending on what that is, and also gives you an opportunity to learn the culture too and practice some of the soft skills as you learn them. And then if you choose to work in the United States, or you even choose to do any type of global job search, you will have to do research and do more research and continue to do research. So you would have to research what is the job market, whether in the United States or any other country of your choice, or even if it's your home country. You would have to do your research to find out what type of specific technical skills would you need to be successful in the industry that you choose to. Then you also have to understand what is the application process and how does this apply to you as you continue your education here in the United States, as you continue to develop yourself as a professional with work experience. Then you have to be willing to integrate the culture and actually learn and actualize what you're learning about the culture. It's a little bit of a challenge because you're coming from your home country. Culture is a little bit different, work ethic is a little bit different, things are done a little bit differently. So learning the American culture, learning how to integrate into that may be a little bit of a challenge, but there's help. Our office is there to help you. The ISSS office is there to help you. Like I said before, if you choose to learn the culture, that's also a way to learn. Now, in terms of the job search, we always recommend that you start at least 6 months to a year prior to graduation, because you need to be able to network. You need to be able to learn what type of skills do you need for the industry of your choice. And there's a timeline. You may need an internship before you get a full-time job if that's something that you desire. So you would start at least 6 months. And when I say 6 months to a year, I mean this is when you begin to make sure that your resume is done properly, update your resume if it needs to be updated, look at your cover letter. If you feel like you want to perfect your interviewing skills, you can schedule mock interviews with our office, networking, whatever that might look like. So, but a good timeline to start is 6 months to a year. And again, like I said before, get involved in the community by volunteering. This will give you the opportunity to meet people outside of the university and to continue to build your network. So if you have any questions, like Lauren said, just hold on to it. And then when we get to the Q&A session, I will be able to give you more information. Thank you.
All right, I guess I'm up for now. All right, I guess I skipped ahead a little bit with the presentation, but I'm going to head and share my screen. I'm able to do that, I'm assuming, right? Okay, great. So as far as my office, right, what we end up doing here, the biggest thing is knowing where to go to get the paperwork. I think that the understanding is that a lot of questions we get is, you know, am I eligible, or how do I get the CPT form? How do I, you know, I have a job offer, what do I do now? And the quickest way to go is on our website, which as an F1 student, you should have it memorized by now, I hope. You go to the F1, F2 visa, and under that you have employment. Going under here, you have information, we have information on on-campus jobs. And then for off-campus jobs, CPT being during your degree program, we have a checklist that usually you have to kind of, you know, look at yourself and see, am I eligible to even apply to begin with for this job offer? So under that checklist, of course, you have to be in a degree-seeking program. That should be evident and that your I-20 has that degree program on it. Secondly, the information on your I-20 current, it matches your degree level and your major. So sometimes if you change your major and you want a CPT for that new major, you may not be eligible right away until you have that new I-20 processed by our office, so that your I-20 matches the job and the job description that you're applying for. Third, of course, you have to maintain an active SEVIS record. Your F1 status does have to be active for you to be eligible for CPT and OPT. You have to complete one full academic year under a degree-seeking program. So if you transfer from another institution to UH, do we count those prior semesters? Yes, we do. You can't count prior semesters from a transfer institution as long as it's not an English language school. So if you're transferring and you're going to start your program here, can you do CPT on your first semester? The way we interpret it, yes, because you have completed your one academic year at a prior institution and transferring that active record to the University of Houston. Also, especially for graduate students, having a GPA over 3.0 should be a basic requirement. If you end up finishing your spring semester and you have a summer CPT and you're below 3.0, or you have too many C's and you may be in low grade violation, you may lose that CPT even if you applied for it, right? So you have to be in good academic standing, in essence, to make sure that your job or the job you're going to apply for does not affect your ability to complete your degree or be able to take courses at the university. Below that, once you say, okay, I meet these requirements, you have the CPT application process flowchart. Now that flowchart, as I briefly described earlier, changes a little bit due to the COVID-19 situation, right? So everything is electronic. Do we accept electronic signatures? Yes. But the thing is, you're going to have to take that form, bring it to your employer, which is fill out yourself, step 1 and 2, then your employer, then you have to take it to your academic advisor to fill out, and then also if you have option 1 for co-op, you would have to send it to the co-op office, enroll in the 0-hour course, and then send it to us, which would then process and send you the I-20 electronically. This is a little different because, of course, you can't come to our office to pick it up. So the I-20 will be sent by email. And even though it's sent by email, that I-20 is valid. You can print it out, sign it, and use it. And on it, you'll have your authorization for CPT. And of course, you can only work when you have the CPT I-20 in your hand and the start date of that CPT is on there. Also keep in mind, we only authorize 1 semester at a time. So if you want to continue a job for future semesters on CPT, you have to start the process for CPT once again. That process takes 5 to 10 business days, and it may take longer as colleges are developing a good process and workflow that will get you these documents signed quicker. It's just not the same as being in person. I think we all need to remember, we have to get used to working in a certain different environment, and things can take a little longer. Make sure your employer is informed of that. Coming to us and saying, well, the college took 3 weeks and now I'm going to lose my job tomorrow. A lot of times I ask that you talk to your employer and inform them of the process. Most of the time they say no, because of course you're more afraid of losing your job than it is pushing the university to get your documents processed. And of course we work as hard as we can to get that to you. Just so you know, we do have a lot of workload during certain times of the year. So below that, right, you have the CPT flowchart. We have the undergrad and graduate applications. They do look a little different. We have the grad student. We have that in the guidelines and procedures. A lot of questions that we get, it's in the guidelines and procedures. This is developed from the grad school. It doesn't mean that those guidelines and procedures could change over time, though we will follow these guidelines when we decide to authorize CPT for you. Then you also have the cooperative education link, because most of the times, if you choose option 1, which is the most common option for CPT, you have to be able to be enrolled in the co-op program, which requires a sub-plan on your academic plan. And information on how to get that signed is through the co-op office. And of course, they have their own process workflow because everything's online, just like our office. So just be aware that you get all the required signatures before you submit it to us. And of course, our submission email, and I can share that later for you. That is, just telling you right now, it's ISSOHLP@central.uh.edu. That's our main email that you can send any questions to or applications such as CPT. OPT, I saw a question earlier, and I'll go ahead and answer this one. What's the best time to apply? As early as possible, which is 90 days before your degree completion. So just to remember this, the law states based on not when you get your diploma or the graduating semesters, when you complete all degree requirements. So you cannot purposely extend your degree program because of COVID-19 and not graduate and just take extra courses. You can't do that. You're done based on when your degree requirements finish. And at that point, you have 90 days before that to apply for OPT. Pre-completion, post-completion, I would definitely not recommend pre-completion because CPT is normally a way of getting that authorization quicker than trying to apply with USCIS. Secondly, you will lose part of your post-completion OPT time by applying for pre-completion. You get 1 year of OPT per degree level, as long as you're moving upwards. So if you apply for OPT on your bachelor's level, you can apply again master's and again at a doctoral level. Now, I'll just mention this because I got an email from the USCIS Ombudsman's office. The USCIS, the processing time for OPT has been extended. Part of that's because they got rid of a private service for creating the EAD cards. I don't know if Joe got this message himself, but the processing times for green cards and for EAD cards has been extended because A, USCIS has a hiring freeze. Two, they got rid of a private office that, or private company that was processing these cards for them. So it's greatly extended the time for EAD cards to be issued. We hope that's going to be resolved soon, but of course, that requires USCIS to get additional funding and no hiring freezes. So that just reiterates that you should apply for OPT as early as possible. So for fall graduates, 90 days before should be mid to early September. That should be when you join an OPT group and apply. STEM extension, you're allowed 2 in your lifetime. That would be, you can do it twice, not on top of each other. So if you do one for bachelor's level, you can do one again at your master's or doctoral level, depending on which one you pursue. And of course, we have that information on here. And that's just wanted to share that for everybody so you're aware of this information. A couple other things, topics I wanted to address, and before we move on, one is that with the COVID-19 situation, what does that look like regarding OPT? What does it look like regarding CPT? At the moment, OPT, a lot of that regulations revolving OPT is more decision by USCIS, and USCIS is very slow to provide additional information. For example, the two burning questions we have are, can you apply for OPT in your home country? That question right now is a no. USCIS has not allowed any sort of leniencies to apply for an EAD card while you're abroad. So if it's your final semester at the University of Houston, you need to be present in the United States before your degree completion to be able to apply for OPT. Second thing, a question we have is there an extension for the unemployment on OPT? So you're given 90 days of unemployment during the period of post-completion OPT. Is that extended? No. At this point in time, no. USCIS has not provided guidance for F1 students. I mean, I can add things about why I think that, but I'll leave that for at any point outside of this discussion. I just wanted to let you all know that at this point in time, there isn't a lot of leniencies in that regard. Now, what is a lenient to the policy of OPT is that right now they're okay for any student on OPT to work less than 20 hours per week and still maintain full-time employee status on OPT. So that is a positive note. So if you do find a job, even if it's unpaid or volunteer, you can maintain your status on OPT without exceeding that unemployment time frame. That I do want to address. Second thing, just the last thing to say before we move on, and I know more of the questions going to be Q&A, is I want to address the basic aspect that if you look at our enrollment reports, you've seen the last 25 years that there are dips in our enrollment for international students. And a lot of these dips is based on sometimes a recession. If you look at 2008 to 2009, and then you see the increase that came after that, there was a stop on pretty much international students at a level after 2001. As you can imagine, that was a big tragedy in the US. And SEVIS system actually was implemented 2 years after this. So that kind of put a little stop on students coming here in the US. So if you consider all of these things, there are trends. We're going through a trend right now where it's policies from the government, and due to COVID and the pandemic, it is going to affect jobs. It is going to affect enrollment at the university for international students. Look at the bright side. These trends don't seem to continue. They will go back up, and that's what you have to be understanding of. So if you're right now completing a bachelor's degree and you are worried about the job market, it doesn't hurt to think about a master's or doctoral degree. you're here in duration of status. So as long as you maintain F1 status, you can continue to be here in the United States, either on OPT or pursuing a degree program. So just keep that in mind. And of course, stay safe and healthy during this time. And I'll end this right now for that. Thank you.
My name is Diseye. Oh, hi everyone. My name is Diseye Ajeh. Like I said, I am currently a technical training analyst at an oil and gas company. I graduated from University of Houston in 2018. And so I completely understand the struggles, the stress that goes with being an international student, especially when it comes to the job search. I empathize with that. So now I have a couple for a job in this time. So normally, even pre the COVID-19 era, it was stressful to look for a job. However, now the rest of the country is in turmoil. People losing their jobs. People are uncertain about the jobs that they do have. There's a lot of stress going around, just in general. Oh, can everyone hear me? I see some of the comments say that I'm cutting off.
It cut a little bit, but we can still hear you.
Okay, great. So the first thing that I want to say before we start this is that as an international student, even if you don't feel like it, you are valued. Your experience is valuable. Your skills are valuable. And so I want you to go in with that confidence, knowing that you're valuable, you're important, and you deserve to be in whatever room that you are in. So when it comes to, whether that's when it comes to applying for jobs, interviewing for jobs or positions, negotiating your salaries, whatever it is, just know that your skill set is being sought out and you're valuable. So now I want to go into looking for jobs in these uncertain times. So I want to say something that the first point of contact, and I know you probably heard this over and over again, is going to be us right here. I'm a University of Houston alumni, and so your first point of contact should be a University of Houston alumni for right now, especially in these times, because you need to reach out to your network as much as you can. And I know for some people that are in here, you may be introverted. I'm introverted, but when it comes to something like looking for a job, you need to go at it at full speed and use every single thing and every single resource that you have. So I'm going to share my screen and show you something which I think is really helpful, a LinkedIn resource which is really helpful. So this is my LinkedIn page. Now, if I'm looking for a job right now and I'm going to, I'm trying to reach out to University of Houston alumni, the first thing I would do is to go to type in University of Houston in here. When I come to the page, scroll down, I'll look in the alumni section. So for the purpose of this call, I'm going to be Diseye, and I'm going to be looking for a mechanical engineering position. So the first thing that I would do is to come in here in this search bar and type in mechanical engineer. And this could be anything that, whatever is related to your major, but for the purpose of this call, that's what we're looking for. So you type that in, and if you scroll down, you can see University of Houston alumni who are mechanical engineers. This is where they live. So let's just say we want to look for someone in Houston. You go to Houston. Now let's say we have a specific company that we're looking for, and some people may not, but if you know exactly where you want to work, this is really helpful. So let's say we want to go Schlumberger. I would click on that and scroll down. This is who you should be reaching out to first, because these people are going to be the people who will connect to you. You already have that network, especially for if you are not comfortable reaching out to people, or especially if you don't think you have a broad enough network. You do. So you go in here and let's just say I connect with this person, the first thing I would do is with my connection email, I will send them a message. And let me just read out a template of what I would send to them if I were the one applying. So I would say, hi, Harry. I know you're doing, I hope you're doing good and staying safe. My name is Diseye, and I'm currently a mechanical engineering student at University of Houston. And I will be graduating in December. Just, you know, if you're not graduating in December, you're reaching out for an internship, or you're just reaching out in advance, you're graduating in 6 months to a year, it's also good to establish a relationship early on. And then you just say, I see that you're a fellow COO and also a mechanical engineer working at Schlumberger. I would like to connect with you and learn more about your career journey. So, and I know this may sound like a lot, but let me go back. This may sound like a lot, but I would say reach out to as many people as you can. Let's just say you say 5 people every day or 10 people every day. Reach out to as many people. This is your network. These are people who are going to help you, who are willing to help you. Reach out to them. And I've reached out to a lot of people who have helped me along the way. So another thing that I would say is that you want your resume to go to the top of the pile, especially in these times. And you have all these great resources at University of Houston. You have career counselors, you have people who can go over your resume, you have people who can help you every step of the way. And if you want to take it that step further, I would say that when you reach out to people, make a genuine connection. Make sure that you establish a relationship with people and let it be organic. But also you want to, when you've got to a point where you're comfortable, you want to be able to reach out to people and let them know, listen, I'm also looking for, I'm actually looking for a job at Schlumberger. Look for and do your research. You know, look for the job, look for the position you want, have the job reference number that you want, and reach out to people and say, how did you get to where you are today? How do you think that is the best way for me to go about this in this company? And if they don't know something, they can be like, you know, I can refer you. Or if they don't, you know, it's okay. If somebody doesn't want to help you out, that's fine. That's their prerogative. But, you know, they can refer you to somebody and be like, you know what? If I can help you, I can tell you somebody who can. I can help you. I can connect you to a HR or recruiting manager or a hiring manager that can help you. And the more you connect with people, the more you increase your chances, because, you know, you have to have a game plan for applying to jobs in these times. You have to use every single thing that you can. Another thing that I would say is that if you apply to jobs on LinkedIn, for instance, sometimes you can see who the poster of the job is. I would say reach out to that person as well. Sometimes if you don't see that, that's fine. You can also just, the same method that we use to search for a mechanical engineer, for instance, you can just put in a HR or a recruiting coordinator and for that same company for that, and then just reach out to them organically. Also, I would say if you can get someone's email, that's really, really great. I would say reach out to them once you want your resume to land on top of their desk. You may have a great resume. I've seen people who have great resumes. You may have a great resume. You may hit as many applicant tracking system points as you can. You may do all of that stuff, and your resume just still doesn't land in front of people. Maybe because you didn't apply early enough. They've already found the amount of people they're looking for. It doesn't mean your resume isn't great. They just haven't got to it. So I need you to make sure that you try your best to get people's email or get their LinkedIn or get their attention as the best way that you can. So also I'll say this, as an international student, especially looking for a job, what I've seen among a lot of people that, a lot of my friends, a lot of people that I know, is that the process when you're applying for jobs can be very taxing on your mental health. I would say be very, very open to asking for help, even if that's with people at the International Student Office, at the Career Services Office, anywhere you can, reach out for help. I don't know if CAPS has if they do virtual sessions or if that's a thing, but if they do, reach out to them, ask for help if you can, because it's very important. It takes a lot of toll on your mental health if you're not staying cognizant of it. So just always know that you don't have to know everything. You can reach out to people, you can ask. Another resource that I would say is really helpful is there's this company on LinkedIn, and they're called Onsulting, and I'll share my page on my screen, and so you can see how it's spelled. But they have weekly seminars and they help interns and some students who lost their internships. They help a lot of people find jobs, their first full-time jobs or internships, and they have seminars with people who are either looking for jobs or people who are also who have already just been through the process. So that's a resource, that's a community of people who are eager to help you, especially if you don't think your network is broad enough. Reach out to people who are excited to help, who this is their passion, who want to connect. This is something I think is really helpful. And so also, if you want to reach out to me, if you have any questions for templates to send out to either hiring managers or people on LinkedIn, you don't know what to say specifically, I can share some of the templates that I've seen or some of the templates that I found, and also that Onsulting site on LinkedIn, and they have an Instagram page as well. They're really, really helpful. So let me share my screen again, and I can share my contact information and the resource. 1 second. Okay, so this is my email address, and you can find me on LinkedIn. But this is really important. The resource that I said, they're called Onsulting, and you can find them on LinkedIn or on Instagram, and they have really, really helpful stuff. They also have an international student LinkedIn support page where you can communicate with other international students who are going through the process, and you can find people with similar majors as you, and just reach out to people as much as you can. That's very helpful. And I think that will help you a lot when it comes to just giving you an edge in these times.
All right, thank you, Diseye, for sharing that information with us. Joe, it looks like you are up next.
Hi, so yeah, just to restate, I am an immigration attorney and I focus on business-based immigration. And when I was invited to give a rundown of changes in immigration law this year, I thought, great, I can do that in about 3 to 4 hours. And then when I got 15 minutes, so I'll try to condense it down into the good news, the bad news, of which there's a lot, and kind of some tips of what you can do to hopefully maximize your chances of success at getting a visa and getting a job. So I guess some good news, which it's been hard to find in immigration law, but American consulates abroad are reopening and they're prioritizing immediate relatives of US citizens and F1 visas. So if you find yourself somehow overseas and you need to reapply for an F1 visa, you should be able to get an appointment. There will be longer delays due to more spaced out appointments due to cleaning. ICE has repealed the online only enforcement thing that was probably a huge headache for everybody at University of Houston having to deal with that. There's been there's been a lot of action. The Supreme Court, there was a lawsuit in a federal district court called IT Serve that implicates third-party placements. So a lot of people that do IT, they're placed at a client site, and this was difficult sometimes for H-1B. So this lawsuit is not binding or anything, but it's very good news for people going into IT that are placed at client end sites, and it can hopefully help get H-1Bs for that. There's a market research analyst class action lawsuit that is currently pending, which everybody's keeping an eye on. Market research analyst is a tricky code. When you do apply for an H-1B visa, you're broken down into a job code, and sometimes it's not the exact thing that you've studied. It does have to be within that field, but when you're applying for an H-1B visa, which most people probably will be, there's the code determines if it's a specialty occupation and you're eligible for visas. So I guess a couple examples: a bookkeeper or a computer programmer. The Department of Labor has assessed that and determined that these don't require a bachelor's degree and they're not specialty occupations and are ineligible for H-1B visas, whereas things like accountant and software engineer, things like of this nature are specialty occupations and eligible for an H-1B visa. So market research analyst has been a tricky job code, and hopefully there will be some changes with that. I guess on to the bad news. There's the travel bans are still in place for Nigeria, Kyrgyzstan, several other countries, but there's a lot of restricted travel due to COVID. Another big one is the land border between Canada and the United States and Mexico remains closed for non-essential personnel. So the air border is still open, but a lot of countries, it's difficult to leave the United States. It's difficult to get into the United States right now. And on the other component of all this is the administration's actions through executive orders. The first one was banning certain classes of immigrant visas to apply for the visa at the consulate abroad, and which at the time didn't seem like a big deal because the consulates were closed due to COVID anyway, and it was only for 60 days. However, that order has been extended to the end of the year. And another one on top of that has been added to restrict the entry of people in H-1B, H-2B, certain J-1s and L-1 visas. The biggest one obviously is H-1B, and the implication is that for the rest of the year, anybody who has, sometimes people have an approved H-1B and then they travel back to their home country to get the visa stamp in their passport. Suddenly those people have found themselves stuck outside the country, and it's I mean, if you're here, good, try to stay here. And I think I'll get to that in a second. That's the biggest theme, is to just kind of hold on and hopefully wait for some of these orders to expire, wait for COVID to go away. And the president has talked about an additional executive order, this one implicating DACA. And there's been rumors, there were rumors in June about the suspension of OPT. There's rumors about the banning and revoking of visas for individuals affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party. Right now, these are it's just rumors. I don't want to give a lot of credence to it. I don't want you to worry about like what could happen. There was a lot of speculation about the first executive order about the immigrant visas, and then come to find out it wasn't quite as bad as people were anticipating. So I want to have like a healthy dose of skepticism with, future actions. It's really hard to say. Case in point, furloughs at USCIS. I know Stefan was talking about the delay in OPT applications and processing. That's going to get worse. USCIS asked Congress for $1.2 billion to pay for their employees, and then come to find out this week, they are projecting a budget surplus. But then also today, they've announced furloughs for, I believe, a quarter of their employees. I don't have the exact numbers or percent, but they have furloughed a lot of people today, which will push processing times back even further. And I do want to caution, do everything as much in advance as you can. I can say right now, I have several cases that have a process pending for clients that have a processing time of 6 to 8 months, and we're at the 12-month mark. And upon inquiry, they just say we need further time to adjudicate. So they're not really even held to their own processing times. So I guess shifting over to what you can do for yourself right now is to stay flexible to the extent possible. I know it's tricky if you're on a visa. I guess while you're still studying, a couple big things you can do are be wise about the classes you take and any electives you choose. This will help out if you apply for an H-1B down the line that does have to fit into a job code. It helps the attorney working on your visa especially, but some of the evidence that can be submitted in addition to your diploma and your resume is your transcript, and your transcript can prove up that maybe your major is something that is not directly related to the job title, but through your transcript, you can prove up what you have studied and what you have experience in. one example off the top of my head, I believe I used this one before, was it was an H-1B beneficiary that the USCIS did a request for evidence for, and her degree was in political science, and she was filling some kind of computer programming role. And luckily she had so many elective classes and a minor in computer science, and it was for kind of like a political think tank. So somehow that got approved through showing that, yeah, she majored in political science, the company does political science, and her role is doing kind of like the programming aspect of it, which she also has experience through a transcript. So definitely keep in mind what your end goal is down the line here. If your degree needs to be relevant, if you're doing H-1B, to what you want to do. And I mean, it's tempting to, when I was an undergrad, I took, bowling. That's fine. I'm not applying for any visa here, but do consider like, oh, this class looks fun and easy versus this class is going to help me get employment, and this will serve well on my resume, on my transcript. Another thing too about the technicalities of when it comes time to sign forms. I know Stefan also mentioned the electronic I-20. If it gets to the point where you're filing forms with USCIS, this is a tricky one, that they accept scanned signatures, but not electronic signatures. So make sure that if you're filling out any forms, if somebody asks you to sign something, you print that out and you sign it in ink, and then you scan it back. Just doing something via DocuSign, or if you have some kind of credential or card where you can electronically sign in the PDF application, that will not suffice. They will not accept an electronic signature, but they will accept an ink signature that has been scanned in and copied. It doesn't have to be the wet ink signature. Maintenance of status is another big one too. So there is when you're on OPT, there is the unemployment, the 60 days. And when you eventually shift over to H-1B, you generally have to prove up that while you're in OPT status, you were still working at this job and you were getting paid. So make sure that since F1 is duration of status, that you are actually maintaining that status. And if you are, if you're taking classes, then that's taking full-time classes. And if you're working on OPT, then that is actually working. There is some flexibility, as discussed earlier, about if you're not working for pay, or if you're doing your own venture or something like that. But do keep that in mind, that your status does need to be maintained. I think what Diseye said about networking, definitely reach out to people already working on a visa. Look what companies employ people, or look what companies will sponsor visa. Just because they don't have any international employees doesn't necessarily mean that it's because they refuse to sponsor a visa. Sometimes they've just never done it before, or they're unfamiliar with it. You can have them reach out to me. I think it's prudent to start looking as early as possible and as often as possible. I think I missed some stuff in the chat here, but I'll try to wrap up here. I guess lastly, since H-1B is the vast majority, is subject to the lottery, and you have to have the employer first, and then they have to sponsor you through, well, they have to pre-register for the lottery in February or March timeframe. And then in March, the lottery is run, and then they have the process changed for the first time this year to where they auto-select people first, and then the visa petition is prepared over the summertime. So out of the about 85,000 slots for, even with the master's degree, like the master's cap and the regular H-1B cap, I want to say maybe 200,000 people applied. So your odds of getting an H-1B visa, even if you're fully qualified, do change year to year, depending on how many people are applying. So it's really luck of the draw. And if you have the STEM OPT, definitely use that to your advantage. You get multiple shots at it. I would encourage you to, you are your biggest advocate. And when you are, it's hard enough to get a job, but do make sure that it is a job that will lead to sponsorship. Don't waste your time over the summer. If it come to find out that when it's time for them to sponsor your H-1B, they say, sorry, we don't want to do that. or if you're working at a company, ask and then insist to what degree possible that they sponsor you as soon as you're eligible, which I've heard of some companies that say, well, you have to STEM OPT, let's wait till next year to sponsor you. That does reduce your chances of selection. So make sure that you are using your time productively, not only to get experience, but also to work in a job for an employer that will eventually sponsor you. And then if H-1B does not work out for whatever reason, either you're not selected or can't find a job in time, there are some options. I guess the simplest one is to continue your education up a degree from bachelor's to master's, from master's to doctorate, or there are other visa types available. When I did this in person, I could easily see the audience, but here, I don't know who's here. If there's Canadians or Mexicans, you may be eligible for a TN visa. NAFTA has kind of been, I think, revoked or something, but for me, the part that I'm concerned about, the labor provisions and visas, that's the same. If you're Chilean or Singaporean, H-1B1 is an option, and certain J visas are still available for graduate students. An O visa might be appropriate. There's EB2, national interest waiver, EB1A generally for people that do have more experience or more academic citations, publications, patents, things of that nature. And for certain countries, they do have treaties to where you can start a company in the United States. There's no minimum investment, but it generally does tend to be quite high. So that is an option. But basically, I think H-1B is probably the most common path here. I do see some questions scrolling on the chat. I guess I should have been on my computer. I'm on my phone, so I might be missing some of them. If we don't get to anything, I go and switch over to the Q&A portion now, but if you have anything else, do find me. I'm on LinkedIn also with Joseph Hoggatt, or feel free to give me an email. My website is atxvisa.com, or just feel free to get in touch with me if you do have any further questions, and I'll be happy to answer them. But with that, that's about all I have.
All right, thank you so much, Joe, and thank you to all of our presenters. So we have had some questions come through the chat. One of them was actually about contact information. So we can work with the panelists to send out that information to students who've attended. A question that I saw come up a couple of times was just asking again about the timeline to apply for OPT, and then similarly to that, when to start looking for a job. So Stefan, Joe, would either of you like to speak to those different but related questions?
I think probably Stefan has better.
Yeah, I'm competing with Joe for the longest time without a haircut. So I think we're both from sometime in February. So I didn't need to color it. Maybe that's what I need to work on. So
I didn't think anybody would be seeing me. This is a disaster, but anyway.
I gotta talk to my wife to see if she's willing to allow me to color my hair. But anyway, that's a separate topic there. But anyway, to answer it, yes, the timeline to apply is 90 days. Earliest is 90 days before. Technically, you can argue the fact, can we recommend a student 90 days before graduation? Or is it USCS has to receive it 90 days before? And normally we just try to recommend it within 90 days, so there's no question on that. So as far as joining, you have to join an OPT group. We do that through a webinar software now, because of course we cannot do that in person at the moment. So you'll be signing up through an appointment calendar, through the counselor appointment calendars. Normally there's one we do every week, and a different counselor does it every week. So just when you see at the end of August, we will have September calendars posted, and you just look for the OPT times and for the counselor and try to sign up right away. So we're usually about a week and a half behind that month, the next coming month, to post appointments. I saw one in there question that kind of was related to this, like, you know, okay, you apply early, but what if it takes forever to get an OPT EAD card approved or adjudicated, and you're sitting there waiting beyond your time frame? Remember, you do have a 60-day grace period following the end of your program to take action on your status. That same grace period is allowed after OPT as long as you don't exceed your 90 days of unemployment. And of course, with OPT STEM extension, you get an additional 60 days. And after you're done with that, yes, you do have a 60-day grace period following that. So in that grace period, and you're applying for initial post-completion OPT, you have a period and you're waiting and you don't have your card and it's still processing. Can you stay here legally? Yes, you can stay here legally. You can wait for that to be approved. The only downside of waiting beyond that point is that no EAD card for OPT can have an end date that exceeds beyond 14 months from the end of your program of study. So if you're graduating in December and February is pending past 60 days and then you get approved in March, the end date of your OPT will then be still February the following year in 2022. So you do have the ability to remain in the US legally while you wait for a decision on your case. But if the decision is beyond your grace period, you do lose some of that post-completion OPT time and you cannot get that back. So that's why I say apply as early as possible. Don't wait to apply for OPT unless, of course, your GPA is so low that you have to wait, right? And your college won't let you apply until they know you're going to graduate. That will be the only circumstance you don't do that. So definitely look for OPT session in September, especially with this delayed time to apply. That's going to be very, very helpful for you proceeding to the ability to have that card as an employee. Employers looking to hire you.
Thank you, Stefan. And then related to that, based on when, let's say someone is graduating in May and looking to use their OPT, when this kind of goes out to Ayo, when do you recommend that students start that job search process? Because there was a question about that.
Like I said before, we usually recommend 6 months to a year. And when I say start the job search process, this would mean anywhere from having your resume reviewed, having put in any updates that you need to put on your resume, and make sure that you have the necessary skills, at least the minimum skills or experience required for the job, whether it be an internship or whenever you're ready for full-time work. Another thing that is helpful is to consider on-campus job, especially if you don't have any American work experience. Working on campus gives you at least some type of work experience here in the United States that you can also include on your resume.
Thank you, Ayo. I think this is a follow-up question to Joe earlier, but someone asked, how would you know if a job has a better chance of sponsorship or an employer who is willing to sponsor?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it just kind of depends on your own personal network, who you know is working where. The Department of Labor used to have a website where all the labor certifications were public and you could look that up. That's gone. So that's gone as of last year. I don't know a good replacement for it. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Ayo,
was there anything you wanted to add to about that, about ways to kind of look for, to see who might be more open to sponsorship?
Well, like somebody said earlier, just to do the networking, I believe it was Diseye that said that, and she really was very helpful in terms of showing us how to network on LinkedIn. So doing your research and finding out either from alumni, alumni, past international students, how they did it, and then doing the networking on LinkedIn and reaching out to organizations. And like I think Joe mentioned that you don't necessarily have to think that the employer doesn't do the sponsorship. I think you just have to make sure that you have the necessary skills and experience and reach out to the employer. The most important thing is to show that you have the relevant skills and you have the ability to do the job, and that you show the relevancy between the skills you have and whatever the experience the employer is looking for, and just market yourself and show that you're able to do the job, as opposed to thinking that they don't do the sponsorship or that the employer will not sponsor. I think the most important thing is to focus on making yourself a competitive candidate.
Thank you, Ayo. There was a question too, what if a startup, I know entrepreneurship was mentioned earlier, there's a question that says, what if a startup wants to sponsor an O1 visa? Can we petition for it if we are in our senior year? That would be a Joe question.
Yeah, there's nothing in the regulation that would prevent anything like that. The only couple issues that could come up, or if your O1 is for people with extraordinary ability, it sounds like a very high burden. The evidentiary standard is a little bit lower than truly extraordinary, but you do need to satisfy some of the criteria, and that's will need to be reflected in your resume, and the employer must have the ability to pay you. Sometimes the question that's asked too is, well, can they pay in stock shares, things like that? I wouldn't feel comfortable relying on that. It needs to be actual money. And another thing that comes up with startups too is that they're running at a deficit or something because they're going through capital. That's never an issue as long as they can prove that they can pay the proffered salary. And with O1, employers do sponsor it. What you can do also, if you're feeling creative, is there's nothing that prevents a person from starting their own company and then petitioning themselves for an O1. But again, they do have to meet that evidentiary criteria, and there is a heightened standard of the business actually has to be viable, but it can be a startup.
Great, thank you for that. There are some specific visa-related questions, so I want to be mindful of questions that can be general. So there's a question, for example, about, you can elaborate a little bit more on the H-1B one. This individual says, I'm Chilean, and would like to elaborate a little bit more about that.
Sure. So H-1B1 was established with a treaty between the United States and Chile, and it's the same requirement as an H-1B. Just a couple differences is that there is a cap. I don't think it's ever reached. So if you find somebody that sponsors you and you apply for H-1B1, as long as the visa is approved, you don't have to worry about selection in the lottery, which is a huge advantage. And the small downside is that it's a little bit difficult to go from H-1B1 to green card. It doesn't have what's known as the dual intent. So H-1B, it has non-immigrant intent, but you can also transition over to a green card eventually. H-1B1, it's not as straightforward.
All right, thank you, Joe. We have a question. Someone asked that they are thinking about doing a co-op in the fall through December, and then defend in November, and would apply for OPT in August, and they're a PhD student. So they're asking, it sounds like they're asking about the timeline, about when would be the best time if they could still defend. I think that would be a Stefan question, yeah.
Yeah, that can be, that brings a lot of, that might be like an individual conversation after this, as what it sounds like. Just a couple pointers on that. When you defend and you submit that dissertation, technically speaking, you have completed all your degree requirements, right? Now, if you're doing it close enough to the end of the semester, that's not going to be a big deal. But if you're planning to defend in August, then enroll in a course and do CPT full time that whole semester, and then apply for OPT right after, technically speaking, you're abusing the regulations because you're applying for full-time CPT and you completed all degree requirements in August. That would be a big problem, and one where I might have to have a conversation regarding your status. definitely don't do that. Now, I would say, okay, if you're working in dissertation, work on a defense day a little later in the semester, get that, work on those changes that they require and submit that closer to the end. So you don't sit there and have a conversation with me later on. Secondly, if you're planning to finish in August, let's say you plan to finish in August and apply for OPT, you can't do CPT at the same time, right? And technically apply for post-completion OPT, you have to show that you're going to complete your degree requirement. So obviously if you're planning to complete your degree in August, you should be applying now for post-completion OPT with an end date in August, right? You can't do CPT after your I-20 program end date has ended, because we shortened that time frame because you told us you're going to be done on this date. You cannot do CPT after that. That just doesn't work. So if you are planning to complete in the fall, closer to the end of the semester, and you can be working on your dissertation, then use the end of the fall semester, work on your corrections. Don't sit there and submit it in September and try to do full-time CPT for fall. That's going to be, like I said, don't have me call you and bring you into, well, my office will be your phone call at this point, but don't put yourself in that situation. You're, like I said, technically speaking, you're done when you meet all degree requirements. So once you submit, there's nothing left for you to do for your degree. And you have to keep that in mind. So however you planning your degree plan, how you're planning to defend and apply for OPT, and if you have the ability to do CPT, you need to look at that timeline and say, okay, am I maintaining my status, and am I following what I'm supposed to do during this time frame? So with that being said, if you want a more specific discussion, then obviously send me an email and we can talk about your specific scenario.
Thank you. I think that's a great point too, because I think there are some individual questions people may have. So again, we've posted some of the contact information for Joe and Diseye in the chat room. And then you can also always contact Stefan and Ayo through the university, different pathways, right? Like Cougar pathway for Ayo. I'm scheduling an appointment with Stefan. So something to keep in mind, especially as we start to wrap up today. So there are some really great questions in the chat. So I'll try to get to as many as I can with the time that we have left. But thank you all for being so engaged, and thank you to our panelists for answering these questions. There was a question about what to expect for career fairs in the fall. And so the question is, UCS will be holding virtual career fairs. What should we expect as opposed to the in-person career fair? Dr. Thompson, if you're still on the call, is that something you'd like to speak to?
Yes, I would. Before I get started, I would like to just thank my team. We were talking about skills, and one of the skills that we really need to look at is flexibility. So everyone's flexible, and I really appreciate that. But we will have, if you got a message from me today, that's maybe why we're getting this question, but we will have 2 virtual career fairs in the fall. And what you can expect, we will have prep sessions of how to interact with these employers. And it will be everything from creating introduction videos. There may be a feature where you can upload a video. We will give you instructions on how to log in, what to say, what questions to ask. We will also get an idea of which jobs are available that you can apply to. So we'll kind of have like a demo day. If you're around in May, we did the virtual career fair on Teams. This fall, we'll have the career fair on Simplicity. So that's a system that you're already used to using through Cougar Pathway. And I also want to do just a quick plug. We have a virtual career fair next Thursday, and you'll be getting information on that. And that's coordinated through the Houston Area Career Consortium. So that's next Thursday. But you will get information on workshops and how to be successful at these career fairs. So stay in tune and in touch with Ayo, because she'll be the one sending the information out. Thank you.
Can I just also add that if you go to Cougar Pathway, you should be able to see on-campus positions that are open for international students. And we are going to post in the chat box a list of employers or departments on campus that will hire international students, and some of the off-campus positions that are open to international students also. Again, like we said before, make sure that your resume has the relevant skills, and just make sure that you focus more on presenting yourself and the skills that you have, as opposed to if the employer will sponsor or the employer will not sponsor. I know that sponsorship is important, but I think that if you spend the energy and the effort in making sure that you're a right candidate in terms of the skills, experience that the employer is looking for, then you become competitive. So look out in the chat box. You should see a list of employers on campus that will hire international students, especially if you're looking for an on-campus position this fall. So we will post it in the chat box before the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Ayo.
And with that too, I know we have just a couple more moments left. And so as I'm looking at the questions, we've got some, like I said, some really great questions. I think this could be a good time to follow up with our panelists. So I wanted to again thank our panelists for being here, and then again see if we could have you all leave us with some final kind of words of wisdom as we close out at least for our time for today.
Hey, Lauren, I also wanted to know if I can ask the site to maybe send us those templates, because she offered to send them out, but she could get like 200 emails. So maybe we can just kind of combine that, because we're going to be sending follow-up information. So that would be great if we can get that from her.
I can send the template. I can send the templates. It was mostly in an article, but I can send that article. Yeah, sure.
Okay, that'd be great if you send it to Ayo. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you all. And we'll get that list of opportunities to you in the chat. You'll just hold tight. In the meantime, again, just want to thank our panelists. And if there's any final words of wisdom or things you'd like for students to be thinking about, just given the current times, I just want to give you all a chance to kind of share some final thoughts.
On my end, I would say that the most important thing is, like Aya said, just try to make sure that you establish yourself as a competitive candidate. Like I said before, your skills are really valuable, and just put your best foot forward, And also, I would say, I think I saw some questions about, speaking to or being scared about telling your employees or your employers that you will need sponsorship at some point. I think, especially if you've checked a sponsor, and even if they don't sponsor, just reach out to them and make sure that you let them know. I would say let them know earlier in the conversation, because when you start having that conversation, I think if you're having, I had 2 interviews. On my second interview, I let them know. I don't think it's anything to be too scared about, because, people need your expertise. So I would say be upfront about it. If you want to speak to people about it and you're a little uncomfortable, you can reach out to someone in HR who understands the lingo. And, sometimes it's just that they've never filed for someone before. They don't know what to do. So you can, reach out, you can get all the information that you can, gather your information, go prepared and explain it to them. And if not, if someone from HR would be better equipped, and maybe not your manager, reach out to them and they can talk to your manager, Just make sure that you have all the information that, you do your research and have all the information that you can, and bring that forward to them and explain what sponsorship means, OPT, STEM, if you have that, H1B, the different routes that you can take. And just go confidently. Yeah.
I just want to say, you are coming out of the University of Houston with a tier 1 degree. A tier 1 degree. Just think about that for a moment. You are valuable. You are extremely valuable. Don't ever forget that. This world is very, very big. It's global. It's a global world. Don't forget how globalized this world is. Don't forget you're coming out of this university with a top education that's very, very valuable, not just in the United States, but the entire world. You have no idea where your path may lead 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. We're here to help you. We want you to succeed. If that may be outside the US, then think of it this way. You could be coming back. Most of my friends in Houston are not students who graduated and made it here. A lot of them came from outside afterwards with a company that moved them to the US, right? There's other ways. Just remember, you're valuable. Think outside the box. Think about what you may be able to accomplish with your degree. Yes, a lot of you may want to work in the US, and we're here to support you to find a job here. We're also here to support you wherever that may be. So don't sacrifice who you are. You are valuable, and you remain valuable, and don't ever forget that. I just want to give that encouragement, because this time people need encouragement during this time, because it's very, very hard. And during this pandemic, people are losing jobs. And don't ever forget that it's through hard times that we learn to develop those characteristics that are very important and help us as we're going into the future. And you guys are the new world leaders that will be coming up. So remember that. I just want to say that.
All right, and I just wanted to add that our office is there to help all students, international students included. If you need anything, if you need a resume review, CV review, even help with networking, personal branding, whatever that might look like, we want you to be comfortable enough to come to our office and ask for help, because we're there to help you. Also, we intentionally every semester put together different workshops and events for international students specific. So be on the lookout for that. If you don't see that, email anyone in our office and say, hey, what programs do you have for international students this fall? Because we do put together things that will help you. So please reach out to our office if you need anything, if you need any type of assistance, even if you need us to help you check out or help you with research when you're researching your employers. If we don't have the answers, we'll try as much as possible to help you and just support you all the way.
Yeah, I would say too, don't get discouraged by whatever you see in the news. Immigration law is frequently changing, sometimes good, sometimes bad. Just keep moving forward, doing what you're doing. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to me. If you find a job and your employer never did it before, has some questions, give them my information. Try to make this immigration like a very smooth and easy process, even when sometimes it looks kind of scary, but just keep moving forward with it.
I also just wanted to add that we have just posted the jobs that are available for international students in the chat box. Take a look at it and just go through the list and see whichever one is of interest to you. If you have more questions about that, you can always reach out to our office. And I also see a question about somebody asking, and they're going to be a sophomore this semester, and they want to know when should they start connecting and researching with employers. I would say right away. It's never too early to start, even if it's just to connect with the employer, to get familiar with what skills the employer needs and do your research, what type of industry you're interested in, what is the type of skills the employer is looking for, and even reach out for an informational interview and see if you are able to talk to someone in the in the industry of your choice, and then just ask more questions that are specific to the positions they have open or the business that they do.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Oh, that's okay.
All right, thank you all for being here. Thank you to our panelists. You can give them a virtual round of applause. But thank you so much for your time and shedding insight, and also just being available for students for questions. So thank you for also sharing your contact information with students. I heard someone say they can't see the listing, so it was just added to the chat. So you may need to scroll because there's a lot of activity in the chat. And we can add it again too, just as a little fresher in the chat box for you. But we hope you take advantage of that list of jobs and the information resources that were shared today. So thank you all.